And I'd like to also introduce another lady whose journey I'm very familiar with. And I've known her since she's been on this journey in 1999. Ms. Bukky George, who's also started something that has created a change, and a change in many people's lives in this room, I'm sure. And so please welcome Bukky to tell us her story. And it's been a fascinating one and a wonderful and successful journey as well.
Yeah, I'm really delighted to be here to share the story of how we have financed HealthPlus Pharmacy and Casabella, thus far. We're still very much work in progress. I know there are many types of professionals in the room, and entrepreneurs like myself, startups, established ones, financial institutions, policymakers, and I'm hoping that you would connect with something that I'm going to talk about that will ignite some kind of action, in your space. Now, I'm very different from the two gentlemen who came, before me. I'm not a sophisticated fundraiser, completely different. I started as a typical mom and pop, and my story is just a story of finding my way, in the by and by. And I'm hoping that, a few of you in the room can also relate to this. So I'll share with you our startup phase, the initial scale-up, additional scale-up, challenges along the way, our current status, and the Indian example and some final words. So startup phase, there's so many options, I'm not too sure where to look. Startup phase. HealthPlus started, as I said, as a really small business in an 18 square meter space in, the idea was born in 1998, but we actually started operations 17 years ago in 1999. And sources of funds, like many people have said, personal savings, this is very key. Everybody should save and start early, with children. Family and friends who believed in me. I had a cousin who was based in the UK, and he put some money down. You know how it is in the UK, you get 0 interest for 6 months. So he passed that on to me, gave me 3 months moratorium, and then I paid back in 3 months, and that was very useful. Supplier credit was also very interesting. For every new branch we started, we would get 2 months of credit, and that, goes a long way. Bank guarantees, these were used, much later for certain rental security deposits. As you well know, we're located in some malls, and beyond paying the rent, we were asked to pay security deposits. And I remember I was just done from Lagos Business School, and we had learnt about, negotiation, and we had learnt about not parting with cash if you don't have to. And I was shocked that some of my fellow retailers were actually paying 6 to 9 months of rent in cash to the mall owners. I was surprised, honestly. What I did to overcome that was to use my in-laws' share certificates. It didn't work with a particular local bank. They insisted that for the amount of money I wanted to guarantee, I should pay them the equivalent in cash. Does that make sense to anybody? Does it make sense to anybody? Banker? Well, it did not make sense to me. If I had it, I would have given it. But luckily, another bank was willing to, accept the share certificates of my in-laws, and that's how I, overcame that particular hurdle. And of course, living a very simple life, a very frugal life, and plowing back profits. One of my mentors said, "Gele haze can wait. In these times, it will be LV bag and Gucci shoes, etc." So basically, delayed gratification. So we had one pharmacy for many years, about 8 years, and we had no requirements for external funding. Next slide, please. And for many of us entrepreneurs, the startup phase is a real struggle due to the difficulties in raising funds, as they have well said. Bottom line, it is what it is. Raising funds is difficult. Just dig in your heels, give it your best shot, and try to maximize or prove your maximum potential. Now, initial scale-up. So we had one branch for about 8 years, but in 2006, the second pharmacy was opened at the Palms Mall in Lekki. And sources of finance, retained earnings, like I said, the share certificate of my in-laws, supplier credit, and the innovating innovative leasing terms of this particular mall and developer. I always thank my landlord that he had this innovative leasing term that allowed us to pay every quarter. If the rent at the Palms was annually or 2 years, as was the practice in those days, then I wouldn't be where I am today for sure. So for that, I'm grateful to Brawl and to Mr. Tayo Amusho, and they kind of set a trend, because thereafter, most rentals were quarterlies. Thank you. So at the Palms, footfall was unprecedented. There was no mall, no retail location that delivered as much, footfall. And when you have footfall and your business is right, then cash flow is great. In 2007, we committed funds to 3 new great locations: International Airport, MMA2, and Ikota Shopping Complex. But we had inadequate working capital. So my colleagues might be super savvy finance people or finance background maybe, but I'm a pharmacist, and if you know anything about medical people, finance is not one of our forte. Do I have some in the house? Doctors, pharmacists, you know how we are. Very clinically minded and not so commercially minded. So yes, inadequate working capital. So we invested into 3 locations. We lost rent because we just couldn't bring them to market. A Nigerian commercial bank with a gender desk sent one of their representatives, and they asked me a question: how can we help you achieve your dreams? That was quite unusual in those days, because typically banks will come to you and say, how much are you going to deposit with us? So it was quite refreshing. I promptly shared the dream of owning a head office with many floors and a brilliant neon sign along the first half of the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. The bank was game. Surprise, surprise. They planned to invest in the purchase of the land for this head office. Then I had a chance meeting with Growth in Nigeria. A top-level assessment of our business led to the conclusion that what we really needed was working capital. And they encouraged me to ask the bank for the exact same money that they were going to invest in the land. And they said, watch them backslide. Did they backslide? Did they backslide? They sure did. Because I guess it's easier to invest in land. If I default, they take the land. And it's probably worth much more. So yes, I got 2/3 of what I originally wanted. I didn't get enough funds, so again, inadequate capital. But anyway, in 2008, 3 branches, branch number 3, 4, and 5 were birthed. And the joy of the loan was, however, short-lived. The promise to support our planned expansion was truncated by the global recession that was aptly predicted by Mr. Bismarck Rewani, who was here earlier. And the bank stopped lending. In fact, my local bank was one of the first to stop lending. And Growth in Nigeria returned into my life. And I'm trying to make it practical, so I've chosen to mention a few names and not to mention some other names. They lend based on cash flow, so that's quite innovative. And I kind of wish that the banks could do that, but I guess it's not in your cash flow lending. Not quite, oh. Not really. So, I don't claim to know everything, but that's not the experience. I've been at it for 17 years. At least not the way that Growthin, do it. So they lend based on cash flow. They lend based on the integrity of the entrepreneur. The focus is on providing growth capital, which is debt. They don't want equity to SMEs, at least in my time. And their maximum loan was $1 million. And repayment of this was in Naira, albeit it wasn't exactly cheap. Between 2009 and 2013, we partnered with Growthin. And along the way, Casabella was birthed, which is a beauty store. And between that time, we grew from the first branch, Palms was the second, 3, 4, and 5, we grew to 19. So in the middle of the recession, we actually grew double digits, and we had 19 branches. And for this, I'm grateful that, Growthin came back our way. We had a few challenges, as you can imagine, but without them, again, I wouldn't be where I am today. In 2013, we had outgrown Growthin, because like I said, they have a max. And one of the things that we have to realize as entrepreneurs is, along the journey, you would need many different kinds of partners. We had outgrown them, but like I said, the history of HealthPlus can never be written without them and some other commercial banks. And so we were introduced to a Nigerian commercial bank with a strategic interest in the retail sector, and Groffin's balance was, paid off. But we're very good. We didn't miss one single payment. So integrity is very key. Transparency is very key. Additional scale-up. So coming closer now to today. 2014, we attempted to secure a dollar-denominated convertible loan from an international finance institution. For those of you who are finance gurus, you're probably saying, ouch, because we all know what happened soon after 2014. I learned very painful lessons about the need to get appropriate lawyers and financial advisors on such deals. Look before you leap. Look before you sign. Get proper advice. Realize that the characteristics of this loan was not developmental in nature. So has that happened to anybody here? You kind of get the impression that if you're in healthcare and it's an international institution, it will be developmental in nature, single-digit interest rate, etc., etc. No, that wasn't what I found out. So between 2013 to date, with the support of our local bank, well, one main one and one minor one, we now have 69 retail outlets in 9 states and the capital, becoming the leading retail pharmacy and beauty chain in Nigeria and West Africa. We generate employment for over 760 Nigerians, and 55% are female. We source our inventory from about 250 suppliers, 70% are local. We have been recognized with many awards for excellence in entrepreneurship and community service, but there's still many frontiers for us to conquer as we contribute our quota to achieving universal healthcare coverage for all Nigerians. Challenges. I've mentioned a few. These are present challenges. With interest rates from local banks between 23 and 26%, the cost of funds is eroding our margins. So I don't travel first class, contrary to popular opinion. And I don't have a single diamond, but I do have a few pearls, freshwater pearls. So yes, inadequate working capital is still preventing us from achieving our full potential. If you think of the fact that we have 170 or 150 million Nigerians, 36 states and a capital, they're altogether about 4,000 registered retail pharmacies in the whole country. That is less than 100 per state. That is ridiculous. And therefore, the market is huge. The potential is there. Over the last few years, we have worked very hard to develop the capacity to scale up. But because of inadequate working capital or the wrong type of funds, we're still not able to achieve our full potential, even though we've come a long way. So one of the reasons why I came here today, beyond being invited to be a panelist, is to listen and learn and take some good stuff away, especially in this season, of our history. Now, our local banks cannot provide us with bank guarantees for foreign procurement. This is really strange. I started a Harvard program last year, and one of my classmates is a mega retailer that you all have probably purchased something from. And he told me that, he gets a bank guarantee from his bank, and that even Apple would give him, about 18 days or something like that. So basically, he wasn't paying out of pocket. Now, we get credit facilities from Nigerian suppliers, our local suppliers. We do get a significant credit facilities from our UK suppliers, and that's because of relationship and 17 years of doing business together. But there's something about the Americans. Any Americans in the house? Okay, and you understand their system? Is there like a government policy about not giving credit? There's something really tough and tight about the USA because, they just want a bank guarantee from your bank. And now with the foreign exchange the way it is, my local bank is not willing to extend bank guarantee. And what it means is we do pay as you go, which is really not good for business. My fellow retailers in developed countries have 30, 60 to 90 days credit facilities. So this is a major challenge. So I'm not here to know it all. I actually need a few answers to take back with me. So yes, no special concessions. Yeah, there are no special concessions known to me for funding healthcare companies that focus on service. So yes, I know the Bank of Industry, etc., would have a plan for manufacturing, but they don't quite recognize healthcare service, which I think is a shame, because retail pharmacy is at the last bit of the pharma value chain. And we are very important because we're the ones who actually take the medication, and we're the last link between the medicine and the consumer. And the consultation that we do, which is for free, is very important and has serious social implications. Still, there's absolutely nothing in place for funding healthcare, my kind of healthcare, which is healthcare service. When I listen to the news and I read the newspapers and I hear all the $1 billion, I mean, my mind can't even wrap around, what $1 billion is. And I just tell myself, all I need is just $1 billion to make a difference, to do something really, to double what we have right now. And then some people have stolen, all that wealth. It's unbelievable. And for those of us who are serious business people, we go through hoops to try and get the money we need. So again, policymakers, if you're here, I'm not looking in any particular direction, but could you please take my pains to those that can make a difference. So yes, the journey to institutionalization has been a very hard road indeed. Building my middle and top management teams with competent professionals, especially retail experts, has caused us to gray prematurely. That's why I have this. Putting systems and processes in place has been a major arduous task. You take 2 steps forward, you take 1 backwards. Who's going through that? Especially with people challenges. But slowly, the team is coming together and it's beginning to make sense. Like most entrepreneurs, insufficient financial management and analysis skills is a challenge that is being tackled. So yes, I'm not a guru in finance management, but I'm back in school. And one of the books by my bedside right now is on entrepreneurial finance. I will get it. So the quality of, so I'm still on challenges. The quality of financial advisory that we can afford has been subpar before now. And because of budget constraints, obviously. And I will ask the question, what comes first? The chicken or the egg? The money to pay a first-tier financial advisor, or somehow borrow or do what you have to do to get a first-tier advisor who can help you make the money? What comes first? The money to pay the advisor is what comes first. Somebody said yes. Get the advisor, then the money will come. Okay, so maybe when it's time for Q&A, you can provide the answer. I say a little bit of both. Do the best you can at any point in time. But sometimes you really want that first-tier financial advisor. But we've come across a few who would take their money at the back end. So that's a possibility. The bottom line is our growth is somewhat stifled, and we're certainly not maximizing the potential of our segment of the pharmaceutical value chain. Our current status, we're sourcing institutional capital. Actually, what I haven't mentioned is along the way, we have hardly ever gone to financial institutions. Instead, they have come to us. And I think it's because of, just as my colleague said, what we're doing is very obvious, it's very compelling, it's about healthcare, it's got social implications, we're quite transparent, we do what we do well, so it's been pretty easy to source finance. But the major issue is it's not adequate. I'm wrapping up now. So at this point in time, we're consolidating our operations. We're reevaluating. I mean, everybody has to consolidate. Last year, we ended 2014 with 39 branches, and we added 24 new branches last year. We were racing last year. I don't know who put a gun to my head, but I guess we also wanted to prove a point. What's the maximum that we can do? Well, with all the hula baloo in the economy, certainly, we've had to consolidate, which is the way to go. I mean, retail expansion is growth, consolidation, cycles of growth, and consolidation. So we're reevaluating our strategy, assumptions, and business plan. We're getting investor ready, which for those of you who are going to be a part of the workshop, you'll understand what it means to get investor ready. We're evaluating financing options for better pricing of our existing facilities and for further expansion. The Indian example, in 2011, I went to India, and I was amazed at how their healthcare industry had really developed. I went for a conference, but I made sure that I had a total health check just to see what it was like. I was pretty amazed by the eye hospital that I went to. It was world-class, decor, equipment, staff, etc. And I did go to a pharmacy that had a lot of sand on the floor. If you took a broom and a packer, you would take a whole, packer full of sand out of this pharmacy. Now, what does that tell me? It's a bit of a contradiction that within a third world country, you could see first world. And it told me something that there's hope for Nigeria. If India can do it in IT, if India can do it in healthcare, then we too can. But I started asking questions, so I would ask questions from anybody who would, answer me. And I said, how did India achieve this? And basically, Indians in diaspora, who had gone to study and work in developed countries were encouraged to come back home. And when they came back home, they were able to scale up rapidly because of well-priced long-term financing. Final words. We need innovative financing options innovative financing options are needed for startups. Because some people do have amazing ideas. And every day I come across entrepreneurs, especially women, who have brilliant ideas, but they just can't get it going because they don't have enough capital. And of course, they don't have collateral. And maybe they don't have a circle of rich friends and family. A company at the initial scale-up phase needs funds that are reasonably priced, committed for the long term, like 5 to 10 years, that will allow for strategic planning. So you've heard my story. I mean, how easy is it to plan under the circumstances when you're literally dealing with a 3-year term loan, and 3 years goes, in a flash. Financing that is needed must come with value-added services beyond the funds. For example, access to alliances and partners, access to markets, help with processes and structure, and even key recruitment. And they're providers of finance who have that. Venture capitalists understand the requirement of startups more than most other institutions. They don't overwhelm you with copious documents and demands for audited financials by the Big Four. They don't insist that all your T's have to be crossed and all your I's dotted. The tendency in Nigeria is to skip from initial scale-up and just go straight to like a PE firm, go straight to the institutional capital provider, who would typically be a bank that is providing a term debt, a PE fund, or you can list on the capital market. Really, the journey should be from angel investors to venture capitalists and then to the banks. By the time you get to those institutional investors, you have structure, you have processes, you have human capacity, you are de-risked. The risk isn't so high, and therefore the costing should not be so premium. Nigerian banks want good turnover as well as collateral. When the entrepreneur has no collateral, then there's no deal, and he or she gets stuck, and their vision is on hold. We need to look, for better solutions, and I'm looking forward to better days ahead. Entrepreneurs, in my own personal opinion, are the real heroes of the Nigerian economy, and we need a lot of help. So please support us. Thank you.
Fantastic. So let's have another round of applause for all the heroes, our 3 entrepreneurs who have spoken so well. Some lessons I think that I've picked from their very